it up. Just then they hear a loud noise and Iluga's eyes gleam, and he reveals that an emperor boar is coming. Riina doesn't get what that means, but Luna lights up and says it's a feast. When Arata asks about it, Iluga explains that it's a giant chunk of meat, but hard to find since they live underground. Hearing this, Riina warns Arata that despite its appearance, this boar is an extremely strong monster, and if it showed up in a city, all the knights of the country would be called in. Just then, a loud roar shakes the forest and the giant boar bursts out, smashing trees as it charges toward them. Arata and Riina stand in shock, while Iluga watches the boar and says that it looks hungry since it was under the ground. Then he tells Luna to stay away, but Luna protests, saying adults always say that, and then take the best parts for themselves. Hearing this, Iluga challenges her to take down the boar herself if she wants the best cut, to which Luna instantly agrees. Meanwhile, the boar charges straight at them at full speed and Arata isn't sure they can stop it and worries that if they fail, someone might get hurt. He glances at Riina and decides to cope with it, to which she panics and tries to stop him, but Arata puts his faith in the power he received from God and thinks that if he can't stop a single beast like this, then there's no way he can survive here. Riina yells at him to move, but Arata stays put, and just when the boar gets closer, Arata holds it back with his bare hands with his full-on Hulk energy. Everyone is stunned, especially Iluga and Luna, who can't believe what they just saw, and Iluga wonders if Arata is even human. Arata ignores their shocked faces and yells that the meat is his, stating that in this world, it's either kill or be killed. Then he apologizes to the boar and throws a punch with all his strength, and the impact knocks Iluga and Luna off the boar and sends the beast flying high into the sky. Arata celebrates that the imperial boar is his, but as everyone looks up in silence, they realize something's wrong because the prey is gone. Arata looks up and finally realizes what happened, and they all cry over the lost meat together. Riina and Arata stand there and look into the distance where the massive boar has torn through a large part of the forest. Iluga shouts at Arata for ruining an imperial boar, to which Luna also agrees and calls Arata evil. Poor Arata doesn't know how to respond and simply apologizes. Seeing this, Riina steps in and tells everyone to calm down and promises to make a meal for them later, but only if they forgive Arata, to which Iluga and Luna reluctantly agree. Arata looks at Riina in embarrassment and thanks her for her help. Then Iluga tells him that he can live in this area if he wants to stay on the island because he can easily find food in it. Hearing this, Arata asks why Iluga said that he couldn't stay here, to which Iluga explains that it's because he thought Arata was human. He then tells Arata that no human can stop an imperial boar or send it flying with one blow, to which Arata exhales and thinks that he is really a human. Iluga smiles and says he's a cool guy, and since Luna has already grown attached to him, he can stay here. Arata thanks Iluga for the permission. Then he turns to Riina and Luna and asks what about her, to which she replies that she still has no way to go home and can't survive alone on the island, so she's decided to stay with Arata for now. Luna exclaims happily that they can keep playing together. Arata smiles, glad to see Luna and Riina having fun. Suddenly, Arata's face changes as he looks up at the sky while pointing his finger at a massive black dragon hovering above them with its massive wings. Iluga clicks his tongue and says that it's a kid Bahamut from the ancient dragon's tribe. Arata notices that the dragon is holding the same boar he had sent flying earlier and wonders how it got it, but just before he can think of anything else, the dragon drops the boar and sends it crashing down toward them. Everyone starts screaming, but Arata tells them to get down and uses his op strength to catch the massive boar and saves them all. After that, he asks if everyone was alright. Luna tells Arata that he is amazing and Iluga nods, saying that Arata is not human. Just then, Arata notices the black dragon flying down towards them and throws the boar down. Iluga asks if Arata is sure he can stop the dragon, to which Arata confidently says yes, and Iluga tells him to handle it while he gets ready to strike. After that, Arata resolves himself to catch the flying lizard, but then the dragon suddenly transforms mid-air and becomes a girl with dragon horns. She smiles at Arata, thinking herself the Beyonce of this world, and says that it is brave of him to propose to her like that. Everyone is shocked while Arata is unable to understand what's going on because the girl suddenly hugs him and calls him my lord while saying his body is strong and perfect for hugging. Arata doesn't know what to say back, so he just thanks her because he can sense that she doesn't have any bad intentions. But he still has no idea why she's calling him my lord. He turns to Riina to ask for help and notices that she is feeling sick again and has fallen on her knees. He runs over to her and asks if she's okay, to which she says she just got hit with too much energy again. Arata says that she doesn't look okay, and it must be the magical pressure from Iluga and the dragon kid, so he picks her up in his arms and takes her out of there. She blushes and tries to say something, but our guy refuses to listen to her complaints and bolts away from the group with all his strength while the dragon girl tries to chase after them, but Iluga keeps her in check. They run to a river deep in the forest where Arata sets Riina down against a tree. He notices her pale face and hugs her as he tells her to calm down and breathe slowly and deeply. For a while they just sit there in an awkward embrace while she tries to catch her breath. Arata is embarrassed to see that Riina feels the same until she suddenly falls asleep in his arms, which surprises him, but then he smiles because she must be really tired after everything that happened today. Just then, he hears a rustle from the bushes, and it's Luna who asks if Riina is okay and if she's hurting her just by being near. Arata pats her head and tells her not to worry and says that Rihanna actually likes spending time with her. Then he suggests that if she's really worried, then she should try to suppress her magic as much as she can when she's near Rihanna, and Luna nods, saying that she'll try her best. Then Arata asks Luna to watch Rihanna for a while, and he will go and ask why the dragon girl came to them in the first place. Meanwhile, Iluga is holding the girl who keeps demanding to be let go, but he refuses because he knows she'll just run off. Then she sees Arata coming out of the forest and gets excited, while Iluga asks if everything is alright, and Arata says that Rihanna has calmed down now. He walks up to the girl and asks her name, to which she smiles and says that she's Tiltu, the daughter of the great Bahamut and part of the ancient dragon tribe that lives on the island. Arata imagines Bahamut as some powerful dragon he's only ever read about in comics, then introduces himself and says he just started living here yesterday. She praises his name and once again calls him my lord, to which he finally asks why she keeps calling him my lord. Tiltu looks confused and says it should be obvious because he proposed to her with passion and she happily accepted. Arata is stunned because he has no idea when he proposed to her, which makes Tiltu shocked, and she asks him about the imperial boar he sent, which is a strong magical beast and in their tribe. That's how you propose. Arata realizes she's talking about that boar that fell from the sky and tells her to explain exactly what she means. She reveals that she was resting at her place when an imperial boar fell from the sky, and when she went to check where it came from, she found him. Since the female dragons only accept those stronger than them, she thought it was a marriage proposal, and she sent the boar back as a way to show that she accepted the proposal and that they would now raise a family and eat together. Hearing this, Aratai's brain short-circuits, and he realizes that it was just a huge misunderstanding and the whole boar thing was just an accident, but he still feels like it's his fault for not explaining anything. So he tells her that it was just bad timing and the boar just happened to land near her by chance, to which Tiltu asks if he never meant to propose, and Arata sadly nods. She sits on the ground and starts drawing circles with her wand and says that even among dragons she's too strong and no one ever wants to approach her, and she really thought she had found someone. Arata feels terrible because even though she's young, she seems really lonely and he doesn't want to hurt her. He looks at the boar and gets an idea, then calls out to Tiltu and says they should all eat it together. She looks at him with tears in her eyes and asks if he really means it and if he's not just tricking her to send her away. But he takes her hand and says they can all eat together like friends. Tiltu stares at him in surprise, but then she smiles and says she's a good cook. She shows him she can breathe fire, so Arata tells her to handle the roasting, and they all head back to Rihanna to ask how they should cook the boar. Tiltu shouts happily that she'll help. Arata walks into the forest and calls out to Rihanna and Luna, to which both of them wave and Rihanna greets Iluga. The divine beast apologizes for scaring her earlier by going Super Saiyan, but she says that it's fine, and Iluga gives her a small smile and tells Arata that she's quite strong as well. Meanwhile, Rihanna looks at Tiltu and asks who she is since she didn't see her transform before passing out, to which Tiltu cheerfully introduces herself and says she's one of the strongest dragons on the island. Hearing this, Rihanna turns to Arata for confirmation, and he nods and says that she's the dragon from earlier. Just then, Tiltu hugs Arata without warning and says she's also his wife. Hearing this, Rihanna looks at Arata with questionable eyes, wondering if he is a weird lolicon. Arata panics and thinks that she probably sees him as some kind of creep now, and starts explaining everything to her. After catching up with everything, Rihanna wonders if Arata is blessed by Loki, because he keeps attracting trouble one after the other. Meanwhile, Tiltu just smiles and tells Rihanna to call her by name because they both love the same guy. Her words drop a bombshell on Arata, while Rihanna quickly says she's only known Arata for 2 days and they're not lovers. But Tiltu says that's fine because she's only known her husband for a few hours and still feels the same way. Then she asks if girls aren't supposed to want someone strong who can protect them, to which Rihanna blushes even harder and says it's not like that. Just then Luna says she feels the same way since Arata was holding Rihanna some time ago. Hearing this, Iluga decides it's time to get back to the boar, to which Rihanna agrees and heads off first, while Arata stands there for a moment and wonders just how exhausted he's going to be if this keeps up. When they reach the boar, Arata finally sees just how massive it really is. Rihanna tells Iluga she'll open the belly and he can handle the meat, and Tiltu lifts the boar at a reasonable height. Rihanna thanks Tiltu and thinks about how rough things have been since she arrived on the island. But now it's time to show her skills, and then she activates her magic and summons a flurry of wind blades that instantly slice open the belly of the beast. Iluga smiles and tells them to leave the rest to him, and then he jumps up and grabs the monster's gut and completely cleans it with a few solid blows. Seeing this, Arata says it's amazing, and Luna smiles too and tells him that Iluga is the best hunter in their tribe. Once it's done, Iluga wipes the remaining blood from his face, and Rihanna appraises his work and brings him some towels. Now all that's left is to clean the meat and begin preparing it. Arata also thanks Iluga for his help, and Rihanna asks them how they're going to eat all of it, to which Arata asks if they can do something using magic. Rihanna nods but tells him that her storage magic would keep the food from spoiling, but there's no way she could fit that much into her storage. Then Arata remembers something and suggests putting the meat into his storage magic. He closes his eyes and tries to visualize the meat from the massive imperial boar vanishing into storage and gives the command for it to fit, and all the meat disappears quickly. Everyone praises Arata's storage magic, while Rihanna stands still with a strained smile and asks Arata how he can use storage magic and how much space he actually has because even a 7-star mage like her doesn't have that much room. Arata laughs nervously while Rihanna says she's definitely going to ask him a lot of questions later. Outside the tent, the boar is roasting over the fire and everyone waits impatiently for it to be done. Iluga says it looks incredible and Rihanna checks the meat carefully before announcing it's ready and tries to calm them down and says there's plenty for everyone so they should take their time. Iluga and Arata grab the biggest chunks of meat with their chopsticks, while Luna and Tiltu dip the meat into the sweet sauce Rihanna made. Arata looks at Rihanna and thinks that the piece of meat she's cooking now is the best part of the boar that melts in the mouth. He knows that at this point no one realizes just how good it really is. Arata stares at the meat and claims it as his own, but just before he can grab it, a pair of tongs smacks his hand and Rihanna tells him to share with others. The group enjoys the food through the whole day, and when evening comes, they head to their homes. Later Rihanna and Arata sit by a fire near the tent and Rihanna says today was hectic, to which Arata laughs and says yesterday was crazy too, but today was something else entirely. Rihanna thanks him again for saving her, and Arata admits that was probably his fault too, but says he wants to thank her for everything she's done, from making the meal to setting up the tent. Then he says he really wants to live on this island and use his strong body to protect her to prove himself useful. Rihanna looks at him with surprise and tells him that no one has said something like that to her in a long time because most people just treat her like a tool or a monster. Arata calls it awful, to which Rihanna explains that that's the fate of the 7-star mages, and even though she's considered one of the weaker ones, she is still seen far above normal mages, and no one would ever imagine someone like her needs protection. Arata looks at her sadly, but she smiles and tells him it just proves how weird he is. She explains that if the kind of people they've met on the island show up in the human world, the entire human race would fight against them to save themselves. And Arata is already stronger than them because humans simply aren't capable of what he can do. She says that she didn't want to ask at first, but now she really wants to know who he is. Arata stays silent and thinks about the fact that they've only known each other for 2 days, and he trusts her, but still he's not sure if he should talk about his reincarnation. He is worried that she might think he's crazy or lying, and she might stop trusting him. He looks up and tells himself if she doesn't believe him, he'll just go back to being alone, but he doesn't want to lie to her. Then he turns to her and says that he is not from this world. To which Rihanna stares at him with shock, and after listening to his whole story, she realizes that he once died in another world, and after meeting a god, he was sent to this island. Arata is still not sure how she'll respond, but to his surprise, Rihanna says it actually makes sense. Arata blinks and says he's not lying and waves his hands nervously, to which Rihanna smiles and says that even if it's hard to believe he met a god, everything else about him is way too strange to be normal. She's seen him launch monsters into the air and do things no regular human could ever do, so it's easy for her to believe that he's not from this world. Hearing this, Arata sighs with relief and Rihanna says that he's worked really hard and hopes to get along with him. Arata is shocked because he expected her to walk away, but instead she smiles, and he thanks her. It's been a full week since Arata arrived on the island, and he feels like he's finally getting used to this life. All his fears about surviving are gone, and he's already used to camping out like this. Rihanna has even started teaching him magic, and now he can use several different kinds of it. Though lately he's been wondering if he's relying on her too much, and he wants to do more so she won't have to worry much. As he walks through the forest, he hears a sound, and suddenly a rabbit runs up to him, and it seems to be the same one he met on his first day. Arata feels guilty for it, and he holds out his hands like before, and the rabbit jumps up and hits him in the stomach. Arata picks him up and strokes the little guy gently. Just then, Rihanna comes out and walks up to him with a soft smile and comments on how he's up much earlier today. Then she turns her attention to the rabbit and asks if she wants to hold it in her arms, but the little guy refuses to sit still, so Arata flicks him lightly on the nose, and the moment he does it, he notices that the rabbit suddenly faints in his hands. He panics and says that he didn't use too much force and turns to Rihanna to ask what he should do. But Rihanna looks at him and asks if he even knows what kind of rabbit it is. Arata shrugs and says he just assumed it was a regular wild rabbit since creatures like that exist in his old world too. But Rihanna stares at him and explains that this one is a calamitous monster. Arata still doesn't understand what that means, so Rihanna adds that it's a catastrophe-level creature, and if one of these shows up in the human world, then only the 7 great mages or the most powerful adventurers would be able to fight it. Arata looks at the rabbit in his hands once again and thinks that it really seems like everything that exists in his previous world is somehow dangerously evolved in this one. And it suddenly makes sense why the rabbit stared at him so strangely before, even when it didn't scratch him. Before he can process more, he hears Tiltu charging at him and hugs him with that same clingy energy. Rihanna greets her and asks how she's doing this morning, and Tiltu cheerfully says that she came to play with my lord. Hearing this, Arata thinks about what kind of game she has in mind, and Tiltu notices the rabbit and gets even more excited and says that they're quick and strong. Luna suddenly appears and hugs Arata, but when Arata smiles at her, she blushes, and seeing this, Tiltu hides behind his back, so Arata gently asks what's wrong. Rihanna strokes Luna's head and compliments her. Seeing this, Tiltu pouts and demands the same treatment, so Arata hesitantly pats her head and she lights up with satisfaction. After that, they decide to go into the forest, and once they are there, Arata suggests a hunting competition with him, and Tiltu on one team and Riina and Luna on the other. And the winner would be the one who catches the most prey. Luna immediately tells Riina to try her best, while Tiltu shouts confidently that their team will win, and then everyone runs into the woods in opposite directions. Luna manages to catch a deer, but Arata and Tiltu struggle to find anything at all. Tiltu hears Luna praising Riina and grumbles, to which Arata explains that Riina is an SS rank adventurer, and probably knows everything about hunting. But he also notices that there's no sign of any animals around them at all. Tiltu begins to brag that the animals must be too afraid of her monstrous dragon power to show themselves, and Arata thinks that's probably true, and it's not helpful for the competition. He wonders if Luna is having the same problem, unless Riina is doing all the work for their team. Tiltu yells that they'll lose if this goes on and insists they need to do something about it. But Arata doesn't have strong magic and doesn't know any hunting tricks yet, so he stares at his hand and tries to think. Then an idea hits him, and he quickly sits down to concentrate and thinks this is the body that God gave him, and if he really focuses, then maybe he can do something. Suddenly, he hears the sound of prey, so he stands up and starts running, and Tiltu follows him. At first he thinks it's a boar again, but what he finds instead is a whole pack of rabbits sprinting through the forest. At first he thinks they're coming to attack, but then he realizes they're actually running away from Tiltu because she's a dragon, and now he can't let them escape. As the rabbits start to scatter, he quickly picks up a stone and takes many down. Tiltu also manages to grab one and proudly shouts to Arata, who points out that there's one left. He kneels to the ground and uses the earth magic that Riina taught him and envisions a trap, and the earth rises into a cage just as the last rabbit reaches it. Tiltu warns him that a rabbit could easily break through something that flimsy, but the rabbit doesn't attack and faints. Tiltu stares with shock while Arata walks over and asks if she's okay, to which she mutters how different he really is. After that, they return to the tent and Luna tells them that their hunt went great. Iluga is there too, and he greets Arata and says that he will take care of the game they caught. Seeing this, Tiltu hides behind Arata and tells him that Iluga called her a lonely dragon, and Arata recalls how she only talks freely to him and Riina but struggles with others. During the boar hunt, she was so excited that it didn't matter, but now that things have calmed down, she's back to being shy. She once told him that it's hard for an ancient dragon to make friends, and that makes Arata want to help her even more. Just then Luna asks Arata how many rabbits they caught, and before he can answer, he looks at Tiltu and asks her instead. She blushes and nervously says they caught 3, to which Luna grabs Tiltu's hand and excitedly asks her to explain how they managed to do it, because rabbits are usually hard to catch. Tiltu glances at Arata like she wants him to speak for her, but he just waves her forward and encourages her to try and thinks that if she can open up like this, then no one will ever call her a weak dragon again. Tiltu straightens up and shyly tells Luna that they'll start training right away, and the girls smile at each other while Arata watches them with quiet pride. Luna calls Arata over and says that she and Tiltu will go play until dinner is ready, and he watches them run off together like best friends. It's been a month now since Arata first came to this island, and as he looks at the map, he realizes that they still can't explore the southern part. Iluga confirms this and explains that the younger members of the demon and dragon tribes are hostile, and while Arata might be fine, he's worried about Riina. Arata then asks about the territory where the elves live, and Iluga says that the elves prefer to stay isolated, but no one can say how they would react to seeing a human. Luna mentions that the spirits live there too, so she thinks they'll be fine if they're careful. Arata thinks about what he's learned and realizes that each tribe seems to have its own hierarchy. For example, in the Beast Tribe village, the normal beastmen live ordinary lives, while the divine beastmen hold higher status. Meanwhile, in the Elven village, the supreme elves are in charge, and the ones who control the spirits are treated like gods, so maybe the best place to visit first would be the Beast Tribe village. Iluga agrees and says he'll tell Arata everything he needs to know, but advises him to bring a gift, like the meat of an imperial boar, and the villagers will welcome them with open arms. Arata nods and then asks if there's any way to leave the island, but Iluga tells him that's impossible and explains that there is a powerful barrier around the island that makes it completely sealed off. One can enter the island easily, but leaving the island is impossible. He reveals that, according to the elder of his village, that barrier was created by the god to trap the strongest monsters so they can't escape into the world and bring chaos. He says that this is the divine island of Arcadia, and the world outside is peaceful only because everything dangerous is locked up here. Hearing this, Arata thinks that he was reincarnated because he wanted to explore the island, but it was never the right place for Riina. She has been helping him since he got here, so Arata decides to help her in return and promises to find a way for her to leave the island. He thinks he'll live a good life here and make sure Riina gets home safely. That night, they are sitting in the tent, and Arata tells Riina the first thing they need to do is visit the beastmen and ask to stay in their territory because they're already living here without asking, so they need to get permission first. Riina agrees to him, and once they finish planning, Arata asks who wants to bathe first, and Riina instantly gets ready and explains that she's all sweaty. After that, Arata sits outside the tent and thinks that even if there are no bandits, he still needs to stay alert because there are other monsters. He knows Rihanna can only handle weaker monsters, but his god-given body can sense any danger, so he focuses, and right then he hears something coming from above. As he looks up, he notices a shadow in the sky.